Okay, we're live.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first 5 Minutes in Heaven panel. So I'm going to start just by introducing myself and asking each of the panelists to introduce themselves. And then we'll talk a little bit about you know what? I'm going to talk a little bit about what this panel is about, just to make sure you're all in the right place, okay? There's a lot to choose from here. So the idea in this panel is we're focusing on episodes 1 and 2 of the TV show. So hopefully everybody in here has seen that. And we're imagining, what if Amazon was not so tight and strict with their run times, right? So we don't just feel like you need more episodes. If you had 5 minutes more in every episode, what could you do with those 5 minutes? What would you do? And making a case for how you could add something that would make a difference in the episode and in the overall season in 5 minutes. So we're just going to give our takes on what we think should be added in 5 minutes to episodes 1 and episodes 2. And then we want to hear from you guys as well, like what your thoughts are. So we're hoping that you guys have come with some ideas on what you would add to those. Okay, so I think this panel should be pretty safe for people who haven't read the book, since at least if you've watched the show, you've seen as much as I don't think we're going to spoil anything really, if you've seen the show. So, but I don't know. Maybe.
I will warn you if I'm going to.
Is there anybody in here who hasn't read the books? Raise your hand. Okay. And have you read like the first couple books? And yeah. How far have you read, Carrie? You're good. Okay. Okay, yeah. If you're in book 3, I don't think we're adding anything from beyond book 3 in episodes 1 and 2.
I have just a comment.
All right, cross some stuff out, guys. All right. All right. So let's introduce ourselves. I'm Rebecca. And if you watch any Wheel of Time content on YouTube, you might have seen my stuff. My channel is called Reading the Pattern.
Hello, I'm Elliot, and I have a little YouTube channel called Elliot Edits. If you want to check it out, you can wait until after the panel to see if you actually like what I have to say before subscribing. Yeah.
I'm Silvertooth. I don't do anything. I'm just on Twitter and Discord.
That's something.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joe. I'm one of the 3 hosts of the Talk Around Riyadh podcast, where we focus on talking about the Wheel of Time television show and relating it back to the books.
Okay. All right. So we're starting with episode 1. So right now we're just talking about episode 1. And then we'll kind of cover that, and then we'll move on to episode 2. So, and because I think it's possible that we all could have some similar ideas, perhaps, of what we would add, that's okay, right? But we'll see. And I think it might be hardest to be the last person who talks. So I'm going to start at the other end, Joe, and you get to go first, okay? And I'll take the hard thing for myself and let you give me your 5 minutes first up.
Okay, so here we go. So I know there was a lot of intros to the first episode. It seemed like there were too many, but I'm going to throw another one in there. I'm going to throw in and I'm sorry, it's not a spoiler, but a spoiler. This is a new spring scene, but it's going to be, but Moiraine talks about it in the first episode. So she mentions that there's a foretelling, the Aes Sedai with the white eyes. So Katara Moroso's foretelling. I wanted a flashback to that foretelling with Moiraine and Swan witnessing it. I think that would have been a great intro to the show. I think it would have been very captivating, like immediately like, holy shit, what's going on? This is crazy. So that I would have put that in there. Then I would have, now, this might be sensitive for some people, this next one. But we got a character that maybe you didn't like or want or understand why this character was put in the show, but Layla Ibarra. If you were going to put her in there, let's get some, words out of her mouth besides "I know."
Yeah.
And then that's it. So I want an extended scene with Perrin and Layla to kind of lay a little bit of more groundwork about, why the love triangle that we see later on is an issue. Like maybe they have a fight or an argument about Egwene. I know he mentioned that Layla didn't go to the ceremony, Egwene's ceremony, but let's have a conversation between them and maybe get a little bit of their relationship, because nobody knows what the hell's going on in their relationship, because there's just like a touch on the belly and a look, and that's it. And then she's dead. So let's get a little bit more of that relationship, so we could also kind of be a little bit more sympathetic with Perrin when he accidentally kills her, because nobody knows who she is. She's just a character who said 2 words and then dies. So let's get a little bit more of that. And then also I would have liked to see Moraine wandering around the 2 rivers asking about the kids, about like where they're from, their childhoods, their parents, and also maybe having a conversation with them prior to the Trolloc attack about their past, maybe including them in this, asking them about it. It doesn't have to be, strangers in the town or people in the town, but she could have had a conversation with the 2 of the boys or 3 of the boys, or Nynaeve and Egwene together, just to get more interaction with them. And then, she mentions Moraine to Viren in the very beginning. It's like one of the first lines of the show. And then they never explain Ta'Veren. They never talk about Ta'Veren again, never explain it, which is, I don't understand why. It does not make any sense to mention something like that and then never address it. But she could also have explained that when she's talking to having these conversations with the 4 kids before they leave Emond's Field, before the Trolloc attack. That would have been a good time to put that in there. And then one last thing. I know this seems like a very long 5 minutes, but this one's really quick. I was waiting for Lan to kill a Myrddraal, and I did not get it, and I wanted to see Lan kill a Myrddraal in that fight at Winter Night. So they could have just thrown that in there, Lan killing a Myrddraal, because we know he does it, and it's awesome. So let's throw that in there.
Okay, I'm gonna agree. It seems like a long 5 minutes, but okay. Any comments from either of you guys on those before we move on to somebody else's?
Only on your first one with the flashback. I think the only problem with Siuan being in that scene is it might mess up the scene later on when they make it a surprise that they're together.
Well, they don't have to be, you don't have to show that in that scene. You could just, they're accepted, right? So this could be just a quick scene of them attending the Amyrlin. Katara Moroso has her vision, dies, and maybe we get the Amyrlin at that, was it Tamra, I think is the Amyrlin at that time, telling them like, you guys need to do this. And that'll also kind of explain Moraine and Siuan's background. And then you'll wonder in the beginning, like, well, what happened to Siuan? We haven't met Siuan yet. And then you finally meet Siuan, you're like, oh shit, she's the Amyrlin.
Okay.
Tom.
Just on that, I think you have a really good point. What if you do that and you never say who the other person is? And then
That's true, because they could be other actresses playing them. It could be like younger
Right.
versions of them, so you don't know who the other person is. That's also another way to do it. Good
Okay,
point,
so
Tom.
the comment being that we kind of know it's Moraine because it's her memory, but we don't know who else is there in the scene with her.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, an alternative too, because I actually like the idea. I hadn't thought of that, putting that in the very beginning there. Alternative would be to show that like in episode 6. This isn't the episode 6 panel, so we can't add anything there. But you could potentially show it in another
Yeah.
episode too. Yeah. Okay. Right. So let's hear you. Silvertooth.
All right. I also broke my down into different spots. I did assign time frames to them.
Well done.
So my first 30 seconds is dedicated to threefold talk. If you're familiar with threefold talk, there's something called, I don't know if you could hear that, but it was butt rock. So the first 30 seconds is going to be the bath scene, and it's just going to be a really slow-mo of Lan getting into the tub so that we get more butt rock. Okay.
I was on the threefold talk when this came up, and I was like, well, it's hard to argue with that. I mean, 5 minutes of butt rock. I mean,
I
gonna
almost
say
went
no?
the whole 5 minutes. But. All right, so the next one, I actually think still in the bath scene when they're talking, I think, sorry,
spoiler, Silvertooth's whole
he's
5
in-
minutes are in the bath.
he's in the bath now, okay? It's fine, he's in the bath now. So when they're talking, I think there needed to be more explanation about what they're there for. I know like we kind of eventually get there, but I felt if I wasn't a reader, I would have been completely lost throughout almost all of the first episode. And I think you could have corrected that a little bit by just giving a little bit of explanation, like what they're searching for. Just even mention, something, the specific age or whatever else it might be. And then my next minute is going to be Morand and Tam. And specifically when the Trollocs attack the Althor farm. Tam is a blade master. He fights one Trolloc and doesn't even technically kill that Trolloc. And Lan kills, 30? Something like that. So I didn't think that made a whole lot of sense. I thought there should have been more Trollocs that Tam kills, I don't know, give him 3, 4, something like that. And then gets injured. And then my last 3 minutes are all going to be dedicated to the ending because I think the ending was just very abrupt. It was basically, okay, bye. So I thought there should have been just put up more of a fight about leaving. Just, add in more to that. And then I think Tam actually agreeing with Moraine that they need to leave, saying, you can bring in the line that I said I never lie, or that they can't lie, and then, throw the whole, the truth you hear might not be, or, what you hear might not be the actual truth, whatever. And then I also thought if they could have just, it'd be hard to show maybe, but maybe a comment about where the specific attacks were, so that maybe you could link it to those 4, that way it kind of links, okay, it's one of you 4, this is why. So, and that's my 5 minutes.
Okay, awesome. Any other comments on Silvertooth's proposal, aside from just why didn't you put more butt rock in? Full frontal. You have a question?
Oh boy.
Actually, I really agree with the concept that we do not have enough of that background,
Mhm.
age of the kids, where were they born? I think bringing that up in the bath would have been a great idea. And there might be 1 or 2 other areas that could have been worked in. That animosity, immediate animosity between Moraine and Nynaeve makes it difficult for Moraine to necessarily ask her those questions. But perhaps, asking at the end, the ladies at the end, that might have been a way to get that out. But that is an important point. We don't know some of the specifics that she's looking for that would help us understand as viewers.
Yeah, so just to sum up, in case everyone can't quite hear, agreeing that we needed to maybe know a little bit more about what specifically Moraine was looking for. Some of that could have come in the bath conversation, but between her and Lan, or in a scene where Moraine is asking questions of somebody else in the village to try to ascertain those things. I mean, we had that good scene between Moraine and Nynaeve where we get a lot of it. She's clearly getting information about Nynaeve through that. We didn't really get too much of the rest. We got she's eavesdropping a bit on Matt and Rand and Perrin, so she gets some things from them. All she has with Egwene is she makes eye contact with her across the water or something at some point. So yeah, you kind of wonder what is Moraine doing all day? Maybe we could have gotten a little bit more of that. Yeah.
Yeah, my only thought about, I definitely felt that way about Tam fighting the Trollocs when I watched it too, right? But my only thought is that maybe they're trying to set up later the idea that this wakes him back up, so when other things happen in the 2 rivers later and he must become who he was again, that you get to see the transformation between what happens on Winter Night and who he is, who he really can be, that it'll be even more dramatic. So but yeah, as somebody who loves Tam, right? You watch him, you think, oh man, they did him dirty. He didn't get any good shots there.
That's a good comment. And again, I'm just repeating, make sure everyone can hear, maybe there was a reason why they didn't make Tam more of a badass in that scene, if they're going to maybe save that for later on when we might see him again. potentially in the show. So, and I had the similar thought, Silvertooth, where I was watching that scene and I'm like, ooh, do I want to add more Tam in here? And I thought about it and I'm like, I don't think it was for time. Like, it does seem like they were making a choice. Maybe we agree or don't agree with that choice, but it does seem like they were making a choice to, he has some ability, but it's definitely not what we would imagine. So it does seem like it was deliberate, maybe. But yeah.
It's been 18 years since he touched that sword.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
First time you see the Trolloc, he killed 5 of them. You'd be like, oh, Trolloc's meaningless.
Yeah.
Just fire the guy, kill him.
It does seem like we just didn't get a lot of commentary on the sword in general, but let's wait on that because I think that could be an episode 2 discussion also, which we're not there yet. So anything else on that before we hear from Elliot? Okay, Elliot.
Great suggestions so far. I'd like to see Jeff Bezos argue with more of Land's ass. So there is something from the books that is very obviously missing from the TV show, and I know you're all thinking it. It's like, where was the void? Right.
Ooh.
So
yes.
my suggestion for an extra 5 minutes in episode 1 would just be, and it's just a suggestion, would be to have perhaps a bit of archery practice for Rand for the competition, and to have a scene between him and Tam practicing, and maybe just, some mentoring with focus on the void. And, on the one hand, it builds that relationship, which I think is important for later on, because I think one of the things the season didn't quite land was just how isolating the revelation of being the dragon is. And I think you kind of get it a bit between Rand and Egwene, and they established that, but it's also, with his father, with, his friends, like it really puts him in a place on his own. So establishing that relationship, but also the void, I think, is a really useful visual tool that could be used in the seasons following, because it would be like, if you establish that location well and the visual sort of elements of that, like I'm imagining, who's here seen Stranger Things? It's like the black room when Elle goes into somebody's mind, maybe, with the sort of reflection. If you've got something like that established, then you can use that location again when, and I'm trying not to spoil anything here, so this is what crossed out, but when, say, characters have conversations in their head with, other people, I just, again, try not to spoil anything, but internal conversations, perhaps if a character is somewhere where, it's dark and they can't, there's nothing really visual going on there, but you still have to, when you're in a character's head like that, and if you've established the void as that location, then it's not like a shock to the audience when you see that person there again, interacting in weird ways with weird stuff happening. So yeah, that would be my suggestion for 5 minutes.
Okay. Any comments from you guys on adding the void?
Yeah, actually, I think that's actually a really good idea. You mentioned the training too, and that's something I'm gonna throw in there in the next one. But, yeah, I think we didn't get any flame and void whatsoever. It doesn't seem like that's gonna be something they can't throw that in there now. I think it's too late. They lost their chance to do that at this point.
Yeah.
Put it in episode 7.
Is it in episode
I
7?
think it's seen in episode 7.
You see
When he's practicing his archery.
And then he focuses
Yeah,
or voids.
yeah.
It's just not been talked about or explained. So
Yeah.
it might be something that's going to be left
Because-
unsaid
Yeah, 'cause
in the
that's a tool
show.
he uses
Yeah.
throughout the entire series that helps him really cope. Well, not just cope, but it helps him throughout the entire series of what Tam taught him. So I think that would be a really great idea to put that in there.
Yeah, and I think it could have been used in episode 8 too, when he does channel at the very end. Is he, you could even do a small flashback to Tam telling him what to do with the void.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, I do wonder if they were thinking, okay, well, this is just a little conceptual thing that we don't have to explain. But I think it also is something that shows the relationship between Rand and Tam and how much of an influence Tam has had on him. I mean, obviously that's just one thing, but it is pretty emblematic of
It's extremely important until the end of the series too.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that would have been a cool scene. Yes.
Do you think they left it out because it was too similar to like the Rosebud and like it would have clued audiences in too early that it would run?
I wonder too, yeah, because they were really
Probably, yeah.
trying to not telegraph who the Dragon Reborn
Mm.
was, especially so early on. And so they were clearly careful about what they showed in that first episode, because there's something that they specifically didn't show that we didn't get until episode 7, because they were trying to keep that under wraps. So, I mean, the nice thing about some of these things, I suppose, is if they continue to use the cold open flashback type scenes, is some of those things could come in at any point later
Yeah.
on when we want to build out some of the history of the characters. It just because we didn't do it now doesn't mean they can't ever do it. But yeah, yes.
I was thinking that, one of Rand's more impressive feats with the flame in the void comes into the home and all of that.
Mhm.
So it's a chance that at the beginning of season 2, they may show him off on his own, using it to survive in some sort of way like that, so that it's separate from season 1. Rosebud is now season 2, and we're showing
Right.
how it ended in season 2.
And we then know that about him. Yeah. So again, maybe a flashback connecting to when he's really using it in season 2. That's definitely a thought. Okay. So my suggestions, and I'm going to try not to be too close to things that you guys have already said. I have some similar things, but one thing that hasn't been mentioned yet is part of the ceremony that happens for Egwene. We know it was filmed because we had a bit of it in the teaser trailer, and they used that image a lot, but we didn't get to see whatever Egwene goes through before the cliff push, where we know what happens in the pool with the women's circle. We can kind of glean a little bit of what might have happened then with different colors of paint and so on, all of this before we come in where they're braiding her hair and so on. So, I mean, my guess would be, again, they filmed it, they must have cut it for time. It didn't fit in, and maybe it wasn't considered as essential. I could definitely see where it might have been more of a world building type of scene, or perhaps a character building type of scene that they decided wasn't as essential and they're cutting the runtime down. But I mean, I would have liked to have seen that. I mean, we know that it was filmed and they obviously had something in mind with that. And it was a really cool visual from what we saw in the teaser trailer. And so I would have loved at least a minute of that, and maybe a little bit more from Egwene's perspective about what it would mean to potentially be a wisdom, because then that comes in and that's something that she has to make a decision in the episode of whether she wants to become a wisdom like Nynaeve. So maybe we could have gotten a little bit of that more from her perspective before she's telling it to Rand. So I would have liked that. And then I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of something that Joe said about Perrin and Layla, because I also would have liked to have seen more of Perrin and Layla. Specifically, this is my headcanon for what is happening, or one of the things that's happening in their relationship is that Layla has suffered a miscarriage. So that was kind of how I interpreted some of the body language and things that were happening between them in the episode. But it's clearly not spelled out because other people have different opinions. Like some people thought she was actually pregnant. I don't think so, because she seems so sad and so unhappy, like through a lot of that. So I don't think she was pregnant, and I would prefer that they did not like spell it out by making her pregnant. Like, let's not go there. Personally, I would rather her not be pregnant, but I'd be fine with a miscarriage as subtext for some of the difficulty communicating in their relationship that they're clearly having. And I don't think it would take very much. Like, I think a very small amount of dialogue in one of the scenes that's already there could have been added to flesh that out a little
It
bit.
could have doubled Layla's word count.
Yes. But honestly, some of it could be like Perrin, like trying to talk to her about it. Like, I'm sad too. And she's just like, she's shutting down. Like, she doesn't want to talk about that. And so I would have loved to just have a little bit more. I mean, I have to say I was impressed with how much they were able to make me interested in Layla as an individual for the very small amount of time that she had. And I think kudos to the actress for that, because, she, you know, I feel like there was an internal life to the character, even with how little she was there. But if you give her a little bit more, and I think you can really like make that more impactful. So I would have added that. And then this is building a little, my final thing is building off of, again, a little bit of what Silvertooth said, the ending. So the very end, I'll try to be more specific here on like how I would handle it, because I agree that that was the number one issue I had with the episode. Like, as I'm watching it through, like a lot of the things we're talking about, they would have been nice additions and all of that, but I wasn't like taken out of the episode by some of these things not being there. But the ending, I was, the very end where it's just so abrupt from we've got to go and, oh, they're gone. They're already gone. And when I watching it again, specifically, I think the biggest issue is it's not even clear that Rand and Egwene's parents know what Moiraine has said to them, right? Like, she's talking to the four of them. So they hear her say that one of the four of them is the Dragon Reborn. And there are other people, but they're kind of far enough away that I'm not sure that any of them have heard what she said. So I don't believe that, you know, Rand and Egwene's parents specifically, I forget about Matt's parents because they clearly don't care. But and Perrin doesn't really seem to have any other family that we've been introduced to. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with them. We'll see if we ever get any more of Perrin's family. But Rand and Egwene's parents, like, I don't buy that they would be like, okay, see ya, and just not say a word. So at the very least, I think they needed to make it clear that they heard what Moiraine said, that they heard her tell them that one of them is the dragon. And, you know, and what I would say is someone needs to ask the question, even if we don't get Moiraine answering it, someone needs to ask the question, how do you know? How do you know it's one of the four of us? Why do you think it's one of the four of us? No one asked that question. And I think someone needs to ask. She doesn't need to answer. She could say, there's no time. I know, I can't explain. There's no time. We've got to go. But someone needed to ask. And then you could then pull in someone saying, well, that must be true because Aes Sedai can't lie. Like, I don't know, maybe I thought of like Meryn might be someone who could say that and support that because she at least has some seemingly like trust or knowledge about Aes Sedai. Yeah, Sen Bui, clearly he's the one. Oh wait, he's might be dead anyway. So, but then you could then segue from that into Tam's line about, you know, the truth that an Aes Sedai says is not always the truth you think you hear. And Moiraine herself says that in the next episode. So maybe that's why they didn't give that line to Tam, but I'm fine with them using it twice, right? Because the intention behind it is different, right? If Tam said it, it would be as sort of like a warning, and it would, for the audience, like a little bit of, okay, you're leaving with her because you really have no other choice, but be wary. Like, we're not feeling great about this. And then when Moiraine says it in the next episode, it's more of a, look at how you can use this. Look at how, you know, this is a tool that you have. And so it has a very different meaning if Tam says it in the end of episode 1 and then Moiraine says it in a different way in episode 2. So that's it. That's my 5 minutes.
I want to add on to that part at the end too. I think it's written right in the books, like, why do you think it's one? They could have used the time that me and Silvertooth both mentioned about, like, Moiraine questioning the townsfolk more to get a little bit of that why she thinks, because she's asking like similar questions. And then I also think it's written right in the books why the four of them, because the Trollocs attacked their homes basically only, and they could have done something like that, or they could have said they focused on there, and that you're right, because it's just ridiculous. It's like, one of you is Dragon Reborn, you all got to come with me, and everyone's like, okay, pack our horses.
Yeah. Jenny.
I find it like very interesting. As a book reader reading the books, I really, really wanted more when I was watching it of the beginning, like the beginning of that episode. I wanted to see more of them just being around in the village. Everybody I know who didn't read the books, including both of my sisters who watched it, like, I was really slow at the beginning. And most of what you added is before the Trolloc attack. And the Trolloc attack was when they were all like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you want us to watch this show?
Yeah.
Whereas before that, they were like, I don't know what's going on. Like,
I'm sure you're right. And like, especially from like the perspective of, you know, Amazon trying to like make this episode move as quickly as they can, and which is tough when there's so much to be introduced to, and they don't want to drag it down too much at the beginning. The Trolloc attack actually takes up a good portion of that episode. It really does. I was surprised on rewatch how much of it is the attack.
I think there was like 20 minutes left when it started.
Yeah. So,
It's-
and then we know there's not much after it. So,
I wonder if with the new season of Stranger Things coming out, like kind of breaking all the rules of like how many minutes an episode should be. I wonder if that's going to affect Amazon's decisions going
they
forward.
really have a different philosophy, apparently,
Yeah.
But,
Well, I mean, I think the boys episodes have been running a little bit longer too. I
oh,
think.
okay. Well, that's
Yeah,
good.
so-
That's a good sign then.
Yeah, like adding more time with Karen and Layla. I also think adding more of them working together on the forge, because
Yeah.
you don't really get any, of that connection. And I think it's important to establish, sort of for Karen's future, his connection to the forge and that connection of the two of them.
Yeah, we see Layla working at the forge, but not Perrin. So
Right,
maybe we
right.
could have gotten a little bit of Perrin working the forge.
Natural way to get them to talk to each other while they're working.
Yeah. Why does he keep wanting to go back to that?
I want to go back to your, the Wayne scene that we didn't see with her in the pool.
Yeah.
And I think it would be amazing to build some of like a supernatural or like a metaphysical connection to that color.
Uh-huh.
Like you'd see it there, all the 7 colors.
Yeah.
And then you see it in the Aes Sedai. Like, is there something that we don't know about these women, or something that we don't know about the world that this is important? These different powers that we see.
Yeah, again, I'm sure that maybe that is part of what that scene would have been about, is some world building stuff, which they obviously decided we didn't have to have. But anyway,
It also ties into why Nynaeve would be cleaning the pool.
yes, right.
No explanation as to why.
Yeah, because there's paint all over the place. Yeah.
And it could also, at that point in time, after Egwene comes out of the pool or she's done with the ceremony, Nynaeve could at that point ask her about becoming the wizard
Yeah.
rather than just throwing it at her.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yep. One more, and then I think we're gonna try to move on to episode 2. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say, really on the great scene in the pool. Just
Yeah.
The idea that, like, I think maybe why they initially had it is that when later we see Nynaeve kick ass in that, like,
Yeah.
it's like desecrating a holy place.
Yeah.
Like, you've got this really spiritual place and the Trollocs are coming to her home. I feel like it was perhaps to her. Not that obviously it wasn't already an amazing scene, but I feel like it'd be like doubly impactful.
That's a good point. Yeah, that cold open with Nynaeve where she's kicking ass in the pool, great moment. And yeah, it might have made that even more powerful if we'd seen it as a holy place that it is for those women. Yes.
Yeah, just something quick. I mean, some of the things that you all have said, like opening the guitar up, more time explaining things and being questioned towards the end. From rumors and things we've seen about how the first episode was supposed to be, some of those things were in there.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Totally.
They were going down that line, so it's either they have to make a hard decision to cut based
Yeah.
on time, or it didn't test too well.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, I'm not going to argue with them trying to keep the first episode tight. I think that was important overall. But okay. So for the interest of time, because we want to talk about episode 2, and also just real quickly for bragging rights. All right. So like if you were all Amazon executives and you had to like pick one of our 4 proposals to put in there. So, that's part of this panel. All right, guys, you guys get to pick. So if you Amazon executives, you have to pick one of our 4 proposals for your 5 minutes. So who's going with Joe?
Oh, wow.
Okay, well, 1, 2, 3.
See
4,
me after this
5,
panel.
6, 7. All right, who's going with Silvertooth? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 7 and 11. Okay, Elliot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see 5. Okay, and Rebecca. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so Silvertooth is the winner.
I think Butt Rock's the winner.
You want bits and pieces of each of them. I know. Okay, so let's talk about.
Oh, I'm on the stream. Everybody's saying they vote for me.
Cool.
All
Yeah.
saying me, so. And there's 150
That's true.
people on the street.
I'm
so that's
surprised more people
150
didn't
more.
vote for Joe because he snuck in an extra couple of minutes in there, you know. But it was the butt rock that pushed people over the edge, which, I mean, again, how can you argue? Okay. All right. So let's move on to episode 2. Should we randomize and go in a different order? Okay. All right. Or should we just go the other way? Is that fair? I don't know. What's fair? All right. All right. So I got to go first. Oh, darn. Okay. So episode 2. I kept things a little bit simpler in this proposal for what I would add to episode 2. The number one thing that I really, really wanted in this episode was, well, it's kind of twofold. So it would be between Rand and Lan. And I want some commentary on Rand's sword. And also part of that is what I want is some kind of interaction between Rand and Lan that is not them glaring daggers at each other or Rand calling Lan a lap boy or whatever it was, or errand boy, whatever he said about Lan. Because that's one thing from the overall season that I miss a lot is a more positive interaction developing between these two characters. Like there are certain friendship or mentorship or whatever type relationships in the books that are really mean a lot or are moving to me. That's one of them, Rand and Lan. So, and we just don't get that in the season at all. So I feel like that connection could come in through the sword, Lan asking him about it a little bit, and, you know, kind of going from there. And then might lead in a little bit to, you know, potentially the idea of Rand not knowing how to use the sword. He has the sword. He doesn't know how to use it. It could tie into Tam a little bit. The reason why I think they might not have done that is because I think it might have been a little bit too much, oh, pay attention to this character. And is he important? His dad has a really special sword. You know, again, we're trying to not make it look too much like Rand is the Dragon Reborn. So the way I would use the rest of my 5 minutes in that episode is to try to counteract that a little bit. And I would focus on a different character that we could try to like lean into a little bit and throw some suspicion that way. So there's balance there. And for me in this episode, I think I would pick Perrin because we get the scene where has this interaction with the wolves. And it's odd, you know, like he's the wolf kind of walks up to him and licks his leg wound. But I think you could throw in a little bit more there, like some sense that there might be some hints at communication there between them without it being a full-on thing, but just something to make that a little bit more odd, stand out a little bit more, make us look at Perrin and go like, what's going on with him? There's something strange and unusual happening with this character. And it might also just give a little bit more of a reason. Like the one thing I will say is like that leg wound that he has, I kind of kept waiting for that to like matter a little bit. And it doesn't really, other than the wolf licks it. We don't even like see it again. And like, did the wolf magically heal it with a lick or whatever? Like, I don't know what they were really going for there. So maybe they could have used that a little bit too. Like even just a commentary on it. Like, you know, aren't you in pain? Can you walk? And maybe he's just like shrugging it off. Maybe that could be a little bit of a misdirection to like, again. So I want the Rand and Lan. And then I also want to balance that with misdirection that Perrin, something weird is going on with Perrin to not highlight Rand too much. So that's my 5 minutes. Any comments on that? Go ahead.
The line in Rand, he should have called him sheep herder.
Yes, yes, yes. Please call him sheep herder. Absolutely. That would be in there. Yes.
I was thinking, you know, what you mentioned about Perrin
Yeah.
in the wolf. I think in book 2, when wolves show up when the camp is like attacked or whatever,
Yeah.
someone is like, oh look, the wolves fight for the Dragon Reborn. And if someone had mentioned something like that before, it could have been a good misdirect.
Oh. Yeah. Like there's something like in the prophecies about it, you know. So yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. Any other questions, comments from you guys on that?
I was going to say, I really like your idea about more to the wolves kind of thing.
Yeah.
As you were describing it, I was imagining something like, because he's in that scene, he starts with like filling up the water bottles.
Yeah.
and perhaps like maybe he drops one in the river or something and goes to get it, but his leg is hurting, so he can't grab it. And then you could have, like, I think when Hopper comes in, like maybe him bringing it
Ooh,
to
yeah.
him and like dropping at his feet, so you get that kind of like there is a connection there.
Yeah, cool.
Like,
Yeah, definitely. I like that. Okay. All right, Elliot, let's hear from you.
okay. Yeah, this one I went a little bit more indulgent in terms of what I wanted to, see as opposed to perhaps storytelling. But in a word, ghosts. Ghosts in Shadar Logoth, I think would have been pretty cool to see. Just to add like a more creepy element to when they're like alone. And I was imagining you could have something like, Perrin wandering around, and then he sees, perhaps you just see someone like walking around. It's like, what is someone doing here? And he follows them. You could even have him like entering like an old hall, and perhaps there's like this sort of weird feast going on, and then the characters, like the ghosts, kind of melt Ark of the Covenant style into this horrible image. I just think that would add a really creepy element to the Shadar Logoth whole section, and I just think it'd be really fun and interesting. And also perhaps you could get Mordeth in there as well, so you've got that extra element to Pardon Fane's character when he shows up at the end. So yeah, that was Ghosts.
That's interesting because, like, they didn't have Mordeth, and Mordeth really stands out in the book, like in a really weird way. But maybe if you were adding in some of those other horror type elements, maybe he wouldn't stand out quite as much. I don't know. Yeah, it'd be interesting. But like, I'm saying he kind of stands out in the book in not a great way, right? Like, like this is super weird, but no one's acting like it's weird that he's here. So yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Well, when Matt gets attracted to them, where he finds the dagger, there's a shadow casts in front of the light.
Yes.
And you don't know.
You don't know what that is. Yeah, but we could guess that maybe it's Mordeth. Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But none of we-
Right. It's just who's moving around in this creepy city. Yeah. Lauren.
I wish they had just shown Trollocs enter the city and then
Like,
Mashadar. Yeah. Okay. All right. We're getting there. We're getting there.
You're spoiling mine now, Lauren.
Okay,
Keep it to yourself.
Slow your mind down. All right. So here we go. Any other comments before? Oh, yep. Go ahead. Oh my goodness. So then you don't know like how much of this
We
is
get the
his
dream
mind.
now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, if one of the ghosts looked like Layla, for those of you who might not have heard that, interesting idea. All right, let's hear from Silvertooth.
More butt rock now. So there's a scene when Moraine goes to the horses. I would have liked to expand that a little bit more and have something with Bella, because Bella's mentioned once, maybe twice.
Yeah.
It's at least once when Egwene tells Bella to run, and then I don't know if there's another one. So something more on Bella. I don't think it would necessarily link anything to Rand. It might actually lean more towards Egwene. But something there. And then during that conversation, because Land comes up, something more about how are there this many Trollocs here? Like, how did they get, they don't have to answer it because they don't know it at that point, but that, more of that conversation. And then when all four of them are sitting around the fire talking about the Dragon Reborn, just more, like explain more, talk about more about how it's not a good thing. Like, yes, this is this all-powerful channeler, but like everything that comes with it, destined to die, all of those things. Bring up that if it's one of the boys, they're going to go mad. I think all of that was needed. And then you touched on it already, but more something training with Lan, all three of the boys. I mean, I don't even think Perrin or Matt had weapons.
They don't. Yeah. They really don't have weapons. Yeah. At that point.
So
Matt has his knife that he gives to Perrin in a scene in that episode, but I think that's it.
Yeah. So yeah, especially Matt should have a bow, right?
Yeah.
And then Lauren touched on it, but I would have loved to have seen Trollocs in Shadar Logoth. Just even if it's like, as that's what's helps drive them out to, then they run into Mashadar.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my 5 minutes.
Good. Good. Any thoughts on that from anyone? No comments. Okay, Lauren, go for it.
Just because I kind of jumped down.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I love about the Shire scenes in the books is the sort of horror element of it.
Yeah.
The fear, and then like creeping around the corners, worrying that if it's not a Trolloc, then it's Mashadar.
Mhm.
And to me, the city did not feel creepy. It just
Okay.
felt like it was like an adventure moment where they just had to run and they ran. And it was like, I
Yeah.
wanted to get more of the sort of like scary, what's around the corner,
Yeah.
I heard a noise.
It just looked abandoned.
Something's watching you. Feel like
Yeah.
that feel that there's always eyes
How
on
do you
them.
get the
Yeah, yeah.
unseen eyes aspect of the book into it on a visual medium? That's a good question. Yeah. Okay. Well, it would explain why the Trollocs don't want to go in there, you know, because we know that, but then we don't.
And the whole element of what scared the Trollocs enough to come to the city. I love that mystery too. From the first book. Actually,
Right.
a quick question I could ask.
Oh man, you're getting into my stuff now.
Okay,
Come on,
oh.
you don't start my stuff, Lauren. You want to come up?
Lauren should have been on this panel apparently. um, but I will, yeah, I will say one thing that might have added to the, well, this isn't as scary as it could have been, is the fact that the characters easily just go walk out, right? Like Lan tells them, don't touch anything, don't eat anything except what you brought. And then he just ignores them and goes and focuses on Moraine. And immediately, like, they just start wandering out. Like, they don't think twice about it. So maybe that they're not afraid of it once they're in there, I guess.
And also, isn't the scene? Sorry,
Yeah, go
I don't know if I'm remembering it wrong, but don't Rand and Egwene have a scene where they're like high
Yes.
up? looking
Yes.
at-
Yes.
That's almost like a beautiful moment of like they're
Yeah.
looking out and they're like, look how great this
It-
world is, kind of thing. It's like, this is meant to be a scary place.
Right. I mean, I would say it's maybe a little sad. Like, there's a sadness to it. I think that I got more sadness than I get scariness from it
Mhm.
until Mashadar comes out at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Swallows a horse.
all right, let's hear from Joe.
Okay. Let's start it off. I think everybody here might have mentioned it. Let's just get Lan training the boys. Like it does. I don't know
Yeah.
how many seconds you would. I need 10 seconds of them. It could be in the background while another scene's happening. Like I don't understand why they did not put that there. It does not make any sense to me. It's literally something they could have just put in the background of a scene. So let's get that in there.
Okay.
All right. No one mentioned this, and I'm very upset. I want an extended dream sequence, the one that Rand had, right? I
Okay.
wanted more out of that. I was glad we got it, Teleran Riyadh, but I wanted more out of it. I wanted to see Dragonmount because I believe later on in the show, like, doesn't Rand say like he recalls seeing that? We didn't see it. I don't know where Rand saw it, and we never get a call back to Rand seeing it. So let's.
It's past
I doubt,
memory
yeah.
leakage.
Or was that one of Luce Theron's memory, dragon
I
memories
think
coming
so.
back?
Yeah.
That's true.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
So in this dream sequence, I wanted to see Dragonmount. I wanted Balzamon to talk in the dream sequence, and I wanted the name Balzamon to be spoken. I wanted that little part where like Balzamon's telling Rand he needs to serve him, and Rand talking about the Dark One being bound at Shia Ghul, because I think that's an important part of the story, and that's a great place to put some of the exposition. And just saying like, oh, the Dark One, he's the bad guy. Oh, he's bound at Shia Ghul. Like, what does that mean? But it sounds like he's in prison. It would have called then later on when we get the cold open on episode 8, we would see, oh, Luce Theron's going to bind the Dark One and Shia Ghul. We could have, connected the dots there. And then I also would have liked a mention of the Eye of the World in that dream as well. Even just like a quick mention of it, and then it comes up again. Again, this is all set up for things that happen later on. I think it would have connected things a little bit better, and it would have primed everybody watching the show for these things. So I was very upset about not putting some of the stuff in the dream sequence. So that's probably half, right? That's about 2 minutes.
Sure.
Yeah, but seeing it and talking about it is very different. I could literally do this in probably less than a minute if I was directing this. It's literally like a flash of Dragonmount. Balzamon shows up. He says, "I am Balzamon." He tells Rand, serve him. The Dark One's bound at Shia Ghul. You will go to the Eye of the World. Look at that. What'd that take me? Like? Come on, people. Be creative. And then the other big thing is, I agree with most people here, Shadow Spawn entering Shadow Logoth. I think we should have gotten that in there. It could have also set up the connection. As Lauren said, why did the Trollocs go in if they're so afraid? That land could have said the Fades connected to the Trollocs, or being able to drive the Trollocs into the city. Showing that there's not just the Dark One and Trolloc evil, that there's other types of evil, and the evils don't get along. So you get the Mashadar versus the Dark One kind of vibe out of that as well. And then also, let's see. Oh, and Land and Moraine just right out of the city, nowhere to be found. Like, well, at least we could have gotten if the Shadow Spawn are gone. They right out of the city, no Shadow Spawn. Where'd they go? They just left. They were like, oh, they went to Shadow Logoth. Let's just go home. That doesn't make any sense to them. So at least if the Trollocs went into Shadow Logoth, then we'd be like, okay, that's what happened. They got killed by Mashadar. So I think otherwise the Shadow Spawn probably would have just sat outside the city and waited for them to come out or die. You know, it didn't make any sense to me. I just have one problem I wanted to point out about this episode. Like rewatching it for this panel, there are 4 scenes, 4 times in the episode where someone is sleeping and then wakes up, like out of their sleep, and like something happens.
Yeah.
Like it happens 4 times in one episode. We've got Egwene with Moraine. We've got Rand's dream, then actually really waking up from the dream. And then we've got Egwene in the Fade. She wakes up in the Shadow Spawn there. And then Matt, when he wakes up and hears goes to get the dagger. So too many
waking ups.
Too many waking up scenes in this episode.
So you could cut out some of that to make room for your 10 minutes.
Technically, we're not. Technically, we're not cutting anything.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. I mean, I think your point about like what, showing at least some Shadow Spawn so we can assume they all went in. I think that's a really good point. They might have budget-wise not wanted to do that, but you wouldn't have to show a lot. Maybe just if you show some, and then just we presume that they all went in and all got Mashadard or something. So yeah, Tom.
Yeah, I think you can also just have Balsamon say it. I know Land's been trading you since he's saying.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Tom, you're getting a little ridiculous
on
now.
On that point, I'm going to really disagree on the dream thing. Like, I don't want Balsamon talking in the dream because I think it's going to be goofy. I don't know. Like, I think it was better to have him just be like a vision and not monologuing at people. The other thing about it is, if you're going to have him do an extended dream sequence with Rand, you have to then do it with the other characters. Otherwise, it's like, well, Rand is having a chat with the Dark One in his dream, so that's suspicious. And
well, no, that's solved because, they first of all, they do it anyway. The Rand has a dream, and then the other boys say they all had the same dream.
True, but when it's a long thing and you're going through it with him and you see it from his perspective, it has more impact, I think. And especially if it's like a whole conversation as opposed to just pulling a bat out of his mouth. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. I think if there is such a thing as too much of Balsamon dream.
No, there's no such thing. How dare you say that?
Okay. All right. Okay. Yes.
An interesting way to address that would be the dream starts with Rand, and then within the dream.
You might have to. Yeah, if you're going to do something like that, I think you need to bring them all in. I do.
You can do that. I'm fine with that. I'll accept that rewrite.
Yeah.
I think you make a great point about also, as book fans, a lot of what we seem to want, right, is stuff that's in the book.
Yeah.
And is explained.
Yes.
It's lore dumps. It's technical details about the way the magic systems work. It's really specifics about this is why the prophecies are like this.
Yeah.
And it feels to me like that is something they're actively not doing.
Right.
And my guess is this is part of what making a TV show in the modern age is like, right? So they have bosses that say hey, you've got pages and pages of because you hear Rafe talking about the fact that you had to fight to keep in the song.
Yeah.
And little things. So it feels to me like character stuff, so I totally agree. Anything that reestablishes and builds character bonds, I want to see more of. But
Yeah.
I'm actually okay with a lot of the stuff that just explains the thing, because I'm like, I got the books to explain all that, and
Yeah.
all my non-book family that watches it, they don't seem to care about any of it.
Right. They don't know that
They follow what's
they're
happening.
following it. They're not missing it. Yeah.
And so like, yeah, I just wish some of the character-based stuff that you guys all
Yeah.
expounded on, like with Lan, that stuff I would love to see a little more of, right?
Yeah.
To build that relationship. But yeah, I just,
I don't
it seems to me like, it just feels like from the way Ray talks about, like the 10,000 lines of notes that
Yeah.
he got from the producers about all the things, I'm like, I just feel like likely that stuff was in early drafts and just line after line after line, they say, no, you're explaining too much of this stuff, or too many weird dreams.
Yeah. And
Like, okay.
to me, it's diminishing returns on how scary Baalzamon is the more he says. Like a little, I don't know. And maybe it's better just not have him speak at all. But like when he starts talking a lot, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't think it's as scary at that point. So I don't know. Yeah, less mystery. I can't really tell, but I'm pointing actually behind you. Is it? Yeah, Anas. Okay, I couldn't tell if it was you, but
Just expanding on the dreams, and I agree with, Bosman not talking.
yeah,
But I think you need to, and I kind of don't like the metaphysics they show that Rand pukes a bat. Like,
Yeah.
That can't happen in Tel'Rondrion.
Okay.
Because that's, so you link the real world and Tel'Rondrion and showing their consequences, that if something happens in
Yeah.
Tel'Rondrion, it happens in the real
Oh,
world.
but they
Bosman just
they screwed that up at the end of in episode 8 where Rand stabbed himself.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
They did a lot of, like, it's not really Tel'Rondrion in the show.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if Osmond doesn't say anything but raise a rat back in the back,
Yeah.
and it shows up in the real world too that this is real too in the dream world.
yeah.
They could have showed it like that this is dangerous.
Mhm.
It just seemed like nightmarish, not.
Right, it does.
Mhm.
Moraine says that dreams are dangerous more than you know, and that's all that we really get of that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that is another part that bothered me. She's just like, yeah, dreams are dangerous.
Well,
Okay.
gotta go. It's kind of no wonder Rand let her have it at that point. He's like, no, this is weird. You need to explain it now.
I just need to back.
Oh, that's the
Lauren.
Moraine from the books, not explaining anything.
Rand goes outside, Moraine trains Pippin, and he doesn't. In the books, he goes and has spies on them.
Yeah.
And here's that. Do you like that they removed that, him sort of listening in? Do you think that he listened in and they just didn't show it? 'Cause I got the impression that he kind of knew what was going on in this.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
and
know,
then
I
because
kind
he
of-
moved also, right? He wasn't sleeping in the same spot as he was. So I think that was kind of a tip off that he either, and then he makes a comment about it. So I think I inferred that, again, I don't know from like a non-book reader perspective, because we know that he does. So I don't know if like a non-book reader might pick up on that.
Yeah.
It seems like they were trying to imply that he definitely got a glimpse.
Maybe
of what's happening.
some, but maybe it's that he got the wrong idea, because he says to Egwene the next morning, he's like, what did she promise you? That you're the one, and so he clearly didn't really hear what they said,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
he took the wrong impression of it. So maybe he tried, but it's a miscommunication again, but I don't mind the change, because the point in the book is, of course, we get to hear that conversation because Rand gets to hear it and we're in his POV. But I think having that scene be centered on Egwene and Moraine and not be centered on Rand, because it's not actually about him, is better. So it's fine if we can headcanon that maybe he heard or wanted to hear some of it, but I'm glad the show didn't show us that, because I don't want the scene to be about him when it isn't really about him. Yeah. Yes.
In that vein, they could have spent the 5 seconds to show him looking around a tree and watching him. He makes a noise, Moraine looks up, he skedaddles, and then you continue with Moraine and,
Yeah.
Egwene.
Yeah.
It would only take 5 seconds.
It's not a time thing for me so much. It's not that it would take time. It's just that I don't want us to be focused on Rand when I think it's more important to just focus on Egwene and Moraine in the scene. But
We've got 1 minute left.
yeah, we got 1 minute. So, all right, we're going to have to do a real quick poll the audience here. So I started this time. So if you would vote for my proposal, raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And Elliot, raise your hand.
Nobody wants ghosts?
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Silvertooth, reigning champ. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think I got 10. And Joe. 1, 2, 3, 4,
There's
5,
my
6, 7,
people.
8,
There's
9,
my
10. Okay,
people.
Joe's got it. Joe's got it. All right. All right, we fit it in. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, all of you people on the live stream. Thanks for watching.